Welcome to the realm of intoxicating flavors and head-banging beer reviews.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Rare Beer Club. I'm your host, the Ginger Yeti. If you're new to the channel, the Rare Beer Club is a subscription club put out by the Beer of the Month Club. I receive a box every month that contains two hand-selected beers. Cost me about $60. And usually I unbox the beers and select one to review blindly and then review the second one later. However, I have a big backlog of these because I don't have a lot of time to drink these all the time. I travel and tour. I still get them every month. I used to take them down to a beer day with TKs and we'd always drink them, but we haven't done that in a while. And so I just have a big backlog of these. And I found a box today that was already open. I just grabbed one out of it. I believe it was from 2023, and this is the beer right here. This is the, if I can pronounce it correctly, Maline from Brasserie Thiriez. I'm sure I butchered all of that, and I'm going to butcher the name of the place it's out of. Esquelbecq, France. I don't know. Esquelbecq, France. I'm not sure. But this is a Rare Beer Club. It comes with this cool paperwork. Read a little bit about the brewery to you. Then maybe we'll look at the bottle before we get into the beer here. So this is something I've never seen before, I'm not familiar with. This is a Porter Beer Noir de Flanders. Don't exactly understand what that is, but I know the back of this explains it, so bear with me here. It's a 6.5% alcohol. And a little bit about the brewery first. So about 150 miles due north of Paris at the northern tip of France, just about 12 miles south of the famous North Sea port town of Dunkirk, you'll find Brasserie Thiriez. Daniel Thiriez founded his brewery in 1996, shortly after settling in the region of France in the small town of Esquelbecq. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that town name. The brewery is housed in a rustic, rather small brick and beam building that harkens back to the days of true farmhouse brewing that took place here before this area was considered French or Belgian. Daniel holds a brewing degree from a Belgian university and brews his beer in a decidedly Belgian style with French farmhouse flair and a regionally atypical heavy hand when it comes to hops. He manages to push the envelope with some of his beers while maintaining a traditional approach to brewing. His beers are unfiltered, unpasteurized, and re-fermented in the bottle, which means this bottle is going to explode on me. So it's going to probably make a giant mess when I open it. Yay. His brewery buildings were originally those of the old Potvin Firm Brewery, which brewed on site until 1945. And I'm sure everybody out there knows why they stopped. So, beers from Brewerie Thiriez are not typically found in the U.S. The importer will occasionally bring in 330 ml bottles consisting mostly of the amber, extra, or blonde. And in very small quantities, there are also some cases of La Petite Princess, a collaboration with Jester King Brewery of Austin, Texas. Well, that's cool that they do collaborations with some of U.S. breweries. So, on to the beer style. And this is where it gets interesting. Porter and Beer Noir de Flanders. The first mention of porter dates back as far as 300 years ago. The name porter was associated with London's working class, the porters of East London, responsible for transporting goods such as fruit, fish, vegetables, barrels, and tankards of beer to and from markets. They typically drank well-hopped and strong brown beers, aged for a considerable time in barrels. The time in the barrels gave these beers an approachable character which added to their popularity. As years went on, the beer became darker with the use of patent malt, a blackened pale malt that gave a deeper opaque color to the beer, but still retained fermentable sugar. Beer Noir de Flanders is a porter-style beer in that it uses dark specialty malts, but is fermented and aged with the use of some Brettanomyces and lactobacillus in oak foeders. Interesting. So this is going to be another kind of sour porter kind of deal. I've done one or two kind of beers like that before in the past on my channel. Interesting to see how this one turns out. Think of it as a much darker oat brune, but not as tart and much less barnyard-like in aroma, and with more emphasis on malt, hop bitterness, and the development of black fruit flavors and esters. Black fruit. What do I mean by black fruit? There's a lot of different black fruits out there. I wonder what they mean by that. So, before I get into the pour and the beer itself, let's look at the bottle here. 1.9, 1 pint, 9.4 fluid ounces. Flanders Dark Ale, 6.5% alcohol. And it's in this, there's some writing on here. I don't know if the flashlight's going to help. It's in this weird, almost cursive-esque writing, but it's kind of small. A happy family. At Brasserie Thiriez, a family-run brewery in Esquelbecq, hops have been part of this history since 1996. Our beers respect our values, quality, taste, sharing, variety, enjoyment. La Maline is a dark porter-style ale with roasted notes. Brewed and bottled at Brasserie Thiriez. And there's no date I can see on the bottle here. Nothing else on the bottle. Kind of some cool artwork on the bottle. Some like almost Art Nouveau kind of art on the bottle there. So, and before I open it and forget, there's also a cool looking crown. I'm trying to remember to get a picture of that crown. Hopefully I remember to do that. Sometimes I forget. So the beer. The Thiriez La Maline, however you say it, pours a deep dark brown and leans towards opaque black, with deep ruby notes around the edges when held up to the light. A firm head made of tan foam sits on top and has a good retention without much lacing. Man, it seems like my voice still hasn't fully recovered from the tour. And since it is the end of draft weekend, and the Browns did some crazy moves, I'm going to use my Cleveland Browns opener here. Hopefully this beer doesn't just explode everywhere. Just got this cool looking crown. Here's some hissing. You can see some foam slowly moving up the bottle. I don't know if you can see it on camera yet. Bubbles starting to pull up there. And the foam is just kind of creeping up the neck. You can see it just kind of bubbling up there. I'm going to pour this out before it makes a giant mess. And they always say tulip top, goblet, those kind of glasses. So I've got, or snifter. So I have a snifter today. And although I read all the notes, still pours out darker than I thought. So we'll get into the aroma here before we talk about the color. Wow, my voice is just, man, still has not recovered. When we took in the aromas, we were greeted with a bouquet of roasted malt, dark chocolate, coffee, and dark caramel. There's an interesting scent there. I can't quite, what is that? It's almost like an herbally, like Jägermeister kind of scent to me. Like green coffee, maybe. Also has a hint of toasted brown sugar. I get the brown sugar. I'm not getting the coffee. I'm still getting that almost like herbal liqueur, Jägermeister, that kind of scent out of it, which is weird and unexpected to me. I'm not picking up any coffee or chocolate or dark caramel. It did get a little bit of the brown sugar. Beyond the aromas, there are deep dried black fruit notes reminiscent of raisins, plums, and blackberries. Maybe that's what I'm equating to like a herbally Jägermeister. Is the dried black fruit notes. Those are accompanied by aromas of dried flowers and herbs with a hint of dark, earthy, and spicy wild yeast. There it is. Dried flowers and herbs, hint of dark, earthy, and spicy wild yeast. Yeah, that's more of what I'm picking up. Now I'm going to skip forward a minute because, like I said, I think this is from 2023. I believe when I purchased this or when I received this. And in the aging and pairing notes, it does say that it can mature for a few years, and they recommend 3 to 5 years for this beer to reach peak maturity. So this is probably in the 2 to 3 year range of aging. And maybe that's why when they first initially review this beer, they pick up all these things like the chocolate, the coffee, the dark caramel, all this stuff. But with the aging, some of those esters and fragrances have died out. That really just smells like like Jägermeister for some reason. That's the scent that just comes to mind. So now we get into the flavors. The first sip of La Maline brings flavors of dark roasted malt, sweetness, and charred grain bitterness. There's also a healthy dose of hop bitterness that we encounter mid-palate, lengthening our experience, paving the way for the layers of flavor that followed. Let's find out, everybody. Cheers. Definitely dark roast maltness. Charred grain bitterness, not so much. Not getting much in the hops either. Then rich dark chocolate, espresso, roast coffee, and toasty caramel flavors are pronounced at first, but soften as the beer warms slightly. Let's take a look at the temperature here, because the recommended temperature is 45 to 52. I'm at 66, so it's much warmer than it should be. Kind of crazy. Wasn't out of the refrigerator for that long. Yeah. 66, 65. 65. Still haven't quite got my refrigerator, my beer fridge, at proper temperature. Plus, this probably wasn't in the fridge as long as I should have left it. But it is what it is, and this is where we're at. The fruit aromas come through as flavors and as flavors and build on the foundation laid by the malts. There is some fruity sweetness there. There's also a weird effervescence that's kind of there but not. It's hard to describe. Lots of dry black fruit, such as the aforementioned raisins, plums, and blackberries, come with a slight vinous note, which complement and balance the roast of the malts and hop bitterness. I'm still not getting any hop bitterness at all. With La Maline being a Flanders beer, there's a good amount of earthy notes and slightly spicy yeast flavors. I don't get any spicy yeast flavor. Some earthiness, yeah. Lactic notes come into play here as well, adding more depth to the flavor and perking up our taste buds. Lots of savory notes follow, bringing in slight flavors of Worcestershire sauce and mushrooms. These people must have been smoking some mushrooms to come up with some of these flavors, that's for sure. I've always said this, I don't know where some of these people come up with these, or the people that do this come up with these flavors, these scents, these profiles. And maybe I just don't have the refined, experienced palate. I know my nose is a wreck. But sometimes I think these guys are just eating a handful of mushrooms, waiting until they kick in to drink the beer and describe it. The beer, Thiriez La Maline, is a medium-bodied beer with finely bubbled mousse. Yeah, I agree on that one. And a round, slightly tart mouthfeel. It's interesting because I would never say it's tart, but I can feel my mouth kind of pucker a little bit. The finish is satisfying and slightly dry. Yeah, it's definitely dry. The roasted malt flavors lingering on and the bitterness tapering off nicely. I have not picked up any bitterness. The experience is rich, layered, and complex, showing off the brewer's know-how as much as the region's style and gives the drinker a good impression of the beer's sense of place. Think of it as one would use the word terroir. I cannot pronounce that word. Terror. I just cannot pronounce that word for some stupid reason unless I hear it. When referring to wines from a specific region of another. The wines taste that way because of the local climate, soil topography, and grape variety. So too are Flanders beers terroir-driven and distinct in that they use locally grown grains and locally cultivated yeast strains in fermentation process. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that there. This is a very complex and very interesting beer. I don't know if that description fits this beer. even as I'm drinking it, I'm still getting that herbally Jaeger-esque kind of smell as I'm drinking it. Or, God, what's the other? I can't remember the name of that other liqueur. Monomarth loves it. I just cannot remember it. It's like Jaeger without the sugar. I cannot remember the name of it to save my life right now. I'll put it up there because I'm just drawing a blank right now what it's called. It's a German digestif. Smells kind of like that too. But the flavors, it's very interesting. It's I would say it's a light bodied beer. Does have some of that effervescence. I am getting some bitter, very bitter chocolate notes now. But this is a wildly complex beer. Not what I expected at all. I would not describe it all the way they describe it. Very interesting. And I should have mentioned earlier, on Untappd, it's at 3.42 with 1.6 thousand check-ins. Beer Advocate gets an 85 good with 29 check-ins. I think both those ratings are low for this, because this is a tasty, complex, delicious beer. I mean, this beer is a big horns up, getting real close to being 2. And as I sit here and drink it as I'm talking, I do get some of those dark fruits starting to come through. Some of that bitter chocolate. It is super drying. Very, very drying. At 6.5%, I'm surprised how drying this is. I would expect this to be a lot higher alcohol for how much it is drying on the finish. Don't get any hops, but again, this has been aged a couple years. Overall, this is a magnificent beer. Really good. I'd love to find more beers from this brewery. My European friends out there that watch my channel, wow, excuse me, man, that's so crude to me. Have you ever seen any beers from Brasserie Thiriez? Did you make it this far to even hear the question? If you have seen some beers from this brewery, let me know down below in the comments. I'd love to find more beers. If this is a example of what they do, I'd love to find more beers from this brewery. So adventure trying these rare beers, and as always, embrace the adventure.